Once in a generation, a boxer does something so incredible, so spectacular, that it will be talked about for centuries to come. In 2010, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao would attempt such a feat. Pacquiao had been on an unprecedented tear through multiple divisions.
Yes, he did.
And when you see a guy fall face first, you know he's neurologically scrambled. Oh yeah.
Nice movement from Cotto to avoid those shots. He's down again.
If he defeated Antonio Margarito, the fearsome #1 contender known as the Tijuana Tornado, he would attain a vacant super welterweight belt and become the first man in history to earn a belt in 8 weight classes. When Manny began his career, he had been around 105 pounds. He would now fight at 154. Although in truth, he would come into the fight much lighter. He had made the difficult decision to go against his longtime trainer and stop bulking up, sure that his speed would be a far more valuable weapon than any extra muscle. Now on the night, he was giving up nearly 20 pounds to Margarito. He had better be right, because the Tornado was no one to be trifled with. Not only did Margarito enjoy a huge height, weight, and reach advantage, he was also a 3-time world champion with a dark history. Margarito had been suspended from boxing for 1 year over a controversy involving loaded gloves, which many believe held a substance similar to plaster of Paris. Margarito's fans hoped this fight could become his redemption, his detractors his punishment. Both men now stood ready. It was time to witness history. The fight began, and Pacquiao shocked everyone by standing right in front of Margarito, squared up and upright. Half the time he took the larger man's punches on his gloves, catching and throwing back. He would reinforce his cover blocks with his parries, then blend the motion of his parry into his return punch. The rest of the time, he used head movement to evade and land counters.
Left to the body, right to the head by Pacquiao.
The taller man was forced to punch down, opening up his body and putting his head within reach of Pacquiao's blinding fast combinations.
That's the way he's fighting his game plan perfectly.
Not much of a tornado were in that round.
So far, Pacquiao's speed and stellar defense were negating Margarito's vast reach and size advantages. Still in question was the power factor. If Manny could take shots and stay standing, and if his own punches would hurt enough to command Margarito's respect. In the second, Pacquiao kept up the counters, but also felt comfortable enough to take the lead at times, igniting rapid-fire combinations that targeted any small crack in Margarito's armor with tremendous precision and accuracy.
It's so noticeable, the hand speed, isn't it?
No matter who's doing it.
Beautiful combinations by Manny Pacquiao.
But Manny's aggression, coupled with his refusal to back down, gave Margarito the opportunity to finally land some big punches. Pacquiao was landing multiple punches for every one that his foe connected with, but the sheer size difference made the discrepancy in power akin to a rapier versus a two-handed greatsword.
Not showing out. Now, he's got to watch himself getting in close.
Boy, you're right. The crowd is in a high pitch.
It's a frenzy.
I thought another good round for Pacquiao.
Yes.
I get it.
Pacquiao changed it up for the third, perhaps because he felt he had proven his point that he could hang with the bigger man, or perhaps because hanging with the bigger man had cost him more than he had let on. He reverted back to his usual lateral footwork and deep angle head movement. His feet were so fast that he could step around to circumvent Margarito's guard before he had time to reposition. Margarito plodded forward at a steady pace, taking punches that had knocked out Pacquiao's former competitors with confidence. Though his head whipped back repeatedly, he did not slow one bit, seemingly assured that Pacquiao did not possess the power to really hurt him. The two exchanged crosses, and Margarito just put on a smug grin. He kept up the pressure, his superior reach aiding his well-placed shots, driving Manny to the ropes. But as of yet, he couldn't keep him there.
Those hands are slow, but those hands are heavy.
Yes, they are.
That chin is solid. So it's definitely a tough customer, and he's got a lot of heart.
And again, the way that head's bouncing around him, look at the way he's operating.
I think that one hurt him.
Round 4 turned out to be explosive. Pacquiao seemed to abandon his lateral movement and went back to standing right in front of Margarito. As a direct result, Margarito was easily able to drive Pacquiao to the ropes. But then, rather than fire off more tight combinations, Pacquiao swung for the fences, putting everything he had into his punches. So far, the smaller man had been keeping his body motion short and compact, economy of motion being the key to throw punches in bunches. Until now, Margarito kept trying to hit even as Pacquiao escaped, but he now had an entirely different look on his face. Perhaps it was right then that Margarito understood what kind of power Manny could bring when he fully committed. But just because Margarito understood the situation better, didn't mean he was deterred. He kept marching forward as Pacquiao unloaded, like a man trudging through a gale force hurricane.
Beautiful display for Pacquiao. Margarito has done nothing to take advantage of his height, his reach. At this point, it's a glorified sparring match.
And eventually, he reached the eye of the storm. Pacquiao calmed down, and Margarito took his turn. He put pressure on by upping his punch volume, then stepped into southpaw to block off Pacquiao's escape, placing a hard uppercut cross combination through his guard. But just as it started to look as if Margarito was indestructible and that Pacquiao had moved up too far in weight, Pacman landed a thudding liver blow at the tail end of his combination. His body straights enticed Margarito to tighten his guard, creating the perfect vulnerability for Pacquiao to target. The champion's legs turned to rubber, and Pacquiao pieced him up, backing the relative Goliath up and forcing a full-on retreat for the first time in the bout.
He might be ready to drop it.
He could be.
And that is a really bad cut, Colonel.
Yeah, he is beat up.
Normally, this would have been the beginning of the end, but Margarito found his courage and surged forward at the very end of the round. With his size, he didn't have to land nearly as much as Pac-Man to end the night. Although it now appeared as if Manny was in control, he was walking a tightrope, with no one to catch him if he fell.
End of round 4.
Size not meaning anything. It's not the size, it's the skill level, and Pacquiao has got that in spades.
Once again, the fight took on a different dynamic in the 5th. Manny now circled the ring, focusing on one-shotting and countering. It was now Margarito who decided to throw rapid-fire combinations, tearing apart Manny's guard to create and capitalize on openings. More than perhaps anyone had suspected, this fight hinged on both men's mastery of the high guard, not only on who could best adjust the placement of their own guard to better defend shots, but also who could find openings through and around their opponent's guard to place their own shots. As the round went on, Pacquiao seemed more and more adept at deciding when to just prod at Margarito and when to throw with authority, saving his best shots for when he knew he would hit clean. However, Manny still had no good reply to Margarito's uppercuts, which came up from underneath his line of sight to sneak through his guard. The round came to a close with Pacquiao dominating.
Fantastic Manny to me.
Absolutely does. And he's just so sharp. I don't know what you could say.
It's a clinic.
But as ridiculous as it seemed with all his success, his task was so monumental that he would have to make adjustments if he hoped to remain conscious. Round 6 looked like what most probably imagined the fight would look like. Pacquiao displayed close to the full extent of his footwork speed, landing unorthodox counters before darting out in the opposite direction. Once Pac-Man got the Tijuana Tornado chasing him, he would stop short to unload, or even change direction entirely, sometimes while countering. At this range and with this movement, he could avoid Margarito's uppercuts. However, his body shot still had the range to dig into Pacquiao's sides, catching the Filipino legend as he moved out and stifling his lateral movement. And for Margarito, the strategy came to fruition with only 30 seconds left in the round. He perfectly placed a hard counter hook underneath Pacquiao's jab. The blow thudded into his kidney. Pacquiao fought on, but Margarito shoveled a second blow into Pacquiao's liver just a moment later. Manny Pacquiao went down. Almost. He rebounded off the ropes and desperately circled out, his lead hand held low to prevent a fight-ending third shot. He clapped his gloves and taunted Margarito. Margarito obliged.
Hit him a pretty good shot.
But Manny proved resilient, keeping his right arm pinned to his side and fighting one-handed against the ropes.
And now Pacquiao fighting off.
Unbelievably, it was Margarito who backed up, and Pacquiao unloaded with the rage of a wounded animal until the bell sounded the end of the round. Margarito probably expected Manny to come out to the seventh with little left to give. Being an experienced professional boxer, he would understand just how much a bad liver blow can slow a fighter down, but in fact, the seventh was Manny's best round so far. He flew across the ring, remaining safe while using angles to decimate the taller man's guard. He mercilessly tore into Margarito, darting back and forth like a hummingbird and stinging him from all directions like a swarm of angry wasps.
Pacquiao just pot-shotting him now.
Colonel scorecard, got Pacquiao pitching a shutout, 60-60.
Margarito still had his moment when he caught Manny on the ropes. But as it turned out, Pac-Man would find an answer to this very serious problem in the eighth. As crazy as it seems, in the eighth, Pacquiao planted himself on the ropes and stayed there, betting that his guard would be all it took to keep him safe. And incredibly, he was right. Although he took some minor damage here or there, Pac-Man was able to deflect most of the shots off of his forearms or elbows, turning with Margarito's punches to take some of the sting off. Few things weaken a man like getting punched repeatedly, and Margarito had weakened enough to where Pacquiao no longer feared his power. He not only stopped or smothered most of Margarito's blows, he fought back, turning the tables and forcing the determined but battle-worn boxer to retreat. The strategy wasn't foolproof, and there were times when Manny seemed more tired than comfortable. But still, Margarito's best strategy now seemed to have been rendered untenable.
Hasn't done enough, because Pacquiao's had an answer for everything he's thrown at him. Beautiful counter shot by Margarito. Pacquiao with lefts and rights.
Here's the warrior Pacquiao. He chooses to stay in the corner. Where does the energy come from? Wow!
It's remarkable.
So going into the ninth, Margarito seemed to have little hope of victory, and perhaps some hope of surviving. Although he kept moving forward, the Mexican champion looked as if he were trying to achieve the world record for most punches taken in a professional boxing match.
But he just took from Manny Pacquiao and kept coming.
Pacquiao now gets out of there.
The right eye rubber.
And he just took about 5 shots.
Oh, and another beautiful shot from Manny
It
Pacquiao.
was an uppercut.
I'd stop the fight after this round. He can't win it, and no sense of him taking any more head blows.
I
They should
agree
stop the
with you,
fight.
Colonel.
Pacquiao wobbled him near the end of the 10th with a hard counter hook, and Margarito probably only made it through the round because the bell was not far off.
And that can be dangerous later in life.
And you hope he survives the round, and then they stop it. That's it. And I hope that's real.
After literally dozens of unanswered punches in the 11th, Manny looked to the ref. Pacquiao was a martial artist who idolized and imitated figures like Bruce Lee since he was a child, not an egomaniac who enjoyed hurting people who were already defeated. But the ref allowed the massacre to continue. Although Margarito could never hope to redeem himself in the eyes of many, he did prove in this fight he was a brave boxer who had no quit in him. And as the bell sounded the end of the fight, Pacquiao had nothing left to prove. Regardless of what happened from here on out, the man who had begun his boxing journey as a 16-year-old stowed away on a rickety ship, hoping to land a fight so that he could afford food, had now become an 8-division world champion, and cemented his place as one of the greatest boxers in history. If you would like to learn more about the sweet science, you can check out my books on footwork, power, and defense, linked below. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you